Welcome back, friends. Hi, hope you are all staying warm and doing well out there. If you hear a noise in the background, I basically have a tower garden behind me with the water is going up right now, and birds that have like 4 budgies, and they're really cute, but they love to sing. They're really loud most of the time. So I'm coming back to speak to you about voices. Lately I've been thinking about how we are supposed to choose our thoughts, choose the voices we hear, sounds and everything. As being followers of our Messiah, we are to be very disciplined on who we put our eyes and ears on. And so in this conversation, I will be touching certain things that have to do with pain and maybe even trauma. But more than anything, I want to kind of like concentrate on bitterness. Because we have seen in the Bible that bitterness is actually the root of all these other emotions. And so we are warned in the Bible to not have allowed in ourselves any root of bitterness. So it's crazy because the Bible even starts with that stories of bitterness. We see in the example of 2 brothers, the sons of Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, as they were supposed to bring an offering to Abba. It was supposed to be kind of like a gift of thanksgiving, and it became a really bad deal when bitterness entered, because Cain saw that Abel's gift to Abba was acceptable and it pleased him. And instead of checking himself to see, what was I thinking when I thought maybe this would be a good gift for God, for thankfulness, and just bring whatever you think, just grab whatever you think and just basically run out the door, right? But no, Abel brought God what he considered was the best. And it's amazing to see that, because whenever Abba thinks of us and thinks of how he comes into our lives, it's for the best. Even if we don't understand it at the moment, but it's for the best. So, but in Cain's heart, it wasn't enough. And he needed to just take that emotion and maybe control it. And God said, if you know that this sin, this emotion is crouching at the door of your heart, and if you don't take dominion over it, if you don't control it, it will rule over you all your life. So in this message, I really want to focus on something I heard a while ago. I don't know exactly who I heard it from. It was maybe one of the great teachers that we listened to from like Torah, Bible studies and things like that. And the statement that I heard was this: the voice that you silenced or you turned off when no one came to help needs to have a conversation with God. Turn it on. So in these moments that we see so many things going on, the hate of brothers, and this goes all the way back to the beginning of creation that we see this. And it's not just a family thing that we see, it's a brand new thing that we see now. Like we have families, dysfunctional families and things like that, or people might call it generational curses and all the kinds of things. But it all began when something unjust was done. And we have decided, that's it. It was not what I wanted. God doesn't love me. I'm not worthy of anything good, or nobody cares to come and help me out, or there's really no justice in this world, or all kinds of different voices that could come in that moment that we got hurt. It could have been trauma, it could have been abuse, it could have been an accident, it could have been so many things that happened to us in this life, because we live in an imperfect world, and the only perfect is our Messiah, our Savior, Yeshua, who you call, and some people call Jesus, but his Hebrew name is Yeshua. And so I just want to focus on that. There's a voice in you that could not speak at this moment for you, because this voice was meant to have a conversation with God when these things happened, and it didn't. because we didn't know, because we were probably too young, or because the pain was so strong, or because the betrayal or the trauma or the abuse or whatever happened was so intense that it just basically shattered the voices that could have helped in that moment. Or maybe it was somebody that you trusted, that you loved, that you really put all your good emotions into. And so then that voice that was supposed to have this conversation with God got silenced, and it never spoke again. So in this video, I'm inviting you to turn it on. I'm inviting you to seek in his word. What happens when it's the root of bitterness that comes in our hearts? And it doesn't stay there. It leads to rage and to anger and to unforgiveness. It leads into all kinds of bitter waters that we are warned against. And there are so many scriptures that talk about not allowing any bitterness to come in. It leads to unforgiveness. It leads to not being able to see the goodness of God. It leads to a life of sin. Because if we're incapable of forgiving others, we won't be forgiven. And the simple prayer says, when it says for us to be forgiven as we forgive our debtors, or the ones that have sinned against us or trespassed against us, all these words, they're very meaningful. These are things that are done and will be done. And we will do these things to other people knowingly or unknowingly. And the fact is that we don't want to be the ones that basically put a stumbling block on people's lives and cause people to not have a conversation with God anymore. And so I invite you to seek Abba, to reflect on what happened, when it happened, and how you felt about this moment when nobody came to help, or there was no one showed up, or no goodness happened in that moment. It was all bad. It could have been a season. It could have been years. It could have been a moment. It could have been just a casualty. In all these moments, it could have been when we were really, really young to even have that kind of understanding, or even way before we started this walk of knowing our Messiah, knowing our God, knowing his word, and how to apply it in our lives. And so I'm inviting you in this video to open that line of communication. That voice that you turned off needs to have a conversation with Abba. He's waiting to hear from you, to talk to you back, to show you his presence, his protection, his provision, his, more than anything, his love. So, friends, I urge you and invite you, because we don't want anything else coming into our lives like it has been happening between brothers, between all kinds of God's people and all his walks. There are so many people walking around a root of bitterness, whether it is in the childhood, in the marriages, in the ministry. And we are warned that for us to have rivers of living waters, there could be no bitter waters. And so, friends, I leave you with this one. Search out all the scriptures that talk about not having root of bitterness, and all the things that could come out if we allow this root to sit in. And I invite you to open your ears after you open your mouth to have that conversation with God and listen. Listen, because he wants to speak to you and he's waiting. So my friends, I leave you with this one. Encourage one another in our Messiah. Learn his word to be able to speak it over your lives, your children's lives, and each one of your brothers and sisters in Messiah, or even on your enemies. I remember, and this is a short story, but I remember having a conflict with, I had basically a neighbor that was just constantly persecuting and constantly oppressing and constantly bullying. And I remember the struggle, the struggle of self-control and containing myself, not to retaliate, not to do what's wrong, and knowing that he has the times of revenge. He will avenge anything that is wrong in the way that he seems right. And in this season of my life, it was so hard to content myself. And I didn't all the time. I messed up sometimes, and I broke out, and I did things in anger, and I allowed this root of bitterness to come in. And when I was able to forgive, God gave me a prayer for this person, and it was to bless that person. To bless that person with the desires of their heart. And if the desires of their heart was to find a place better than where we live, a beautiful home with everything that was what the person desired for them, that would be so. That to bless that person. And just short after that, one day I walked outside and I heard the person having a conversation on the phone about this beautiful home with walk-in closets and all these things in the kitchen and everything, all details of what, well, the person was really excited about the home. And little after that, the person moved away into a beautiful blessing. And I was just hoping that that blessing was able to set in the heart. And find the place where that bitterness entered and the unforgiveness entered in that person's heart and set them free. So my friends, I leave you with this testimony. Be encouraged. Keep on pressing forward to do the right thing and release to Abba any root of bitterness and allow him to hear your voice. And friends, please be at peace. Have shalom, share shalom, and more than anything, find joy in your life. Be blessed and shalom. I'll see you again on the next one.